Kalen DeBoer and Alabama need a win this week, and they've got the formula to do it.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and your daily source to stay up to date with the greatest sport on planet Earth. So great to have games to talk about every week. Making some big game picks of matchups I talked about earlier this week. LSU and Ole Miss? Question mark. Does Utah get a bounce back against West Virginia? Can the Mountaineers pull another stunner in the Big 12? Hey, I've seen it happen before, and best bets are back this week. Or you might call them worst bets, and I wouldn't even be able to blame you at this point. This episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Like the players of your favorite team, they sweat every detail at Mazda because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. So Alabama, Georgia this week. Do you remember this game last year? I remember this game. Most people do. It's one of the better regular season football games in the last 3, 5, 20 years, it feels like, in college football, because it was simply sensational. That Alabama needed a late touchdown to win the game 41-34. Ryan Williams hit the dead leg. It was awesome. It was awesome. Alabama has to go to Athens this year. Not great. Not great if you're Alabama. Georgia hasn't lost there since 2019. But I just watched Georgia get pushed to the brink by Joey Aguilar not long ago. 371 yards. Yes, a couple of interceptions, but 4 touchdowns as well. Ty Simpson has been playing really good football this year. And I'm not excluding the Florida State game when he was running for his life. I mean, when you go back and watch the tape, Ty Simpson, more often than not, is under pressure, under duress, and he's not the most mobile guy in the world, but you give him a clean pocket, he's going to throw for yards against this Georgia defense because this is just not the Georgia defense of old. If Joey Aguilar can do it, Ty Simpson can do it. And Tennessee had every opportunity to go and win that football game. They just needed a field goal or a 4th down stop or better play in overtime. One of those things, not all of them, not 2 of them, they get one of those things. Tennessee is undefeated, ranked inside the top 10 with a win over Georgia right now. So that formula can be there for Alabama. Since the Florida State game, where Ty Simpson completed about 53% of his passes when he was under major duress, since then, I ran the numbers. I think he's completed 214% of his passes since then. He's somehow gone over 100%. It's incredible. We've never seen anything like it before in college football. And he's averaging over 300 yards a game. And then you might say, Spencer, he's played UL Monroe and Wisconsin. Well, I can't really push back on that. I can just assess that he has to be more confident now than he was coming out of the Florida State game, or probably at any point in his career, because he's playing really good football. He also hasn't thrown an interception yet this year. He's a much more experienced quarterback in the SEC, not with quite as many games all the time, but he's been around an SEC program, at least going against it in practice. I don't think he makes the same sorts of mistakes Joey Aguilar did. Now, the Bulldogs only turn those Vols interceptions into 3 points in the game. That was really important. So when I look at what Alabama could do in this spot, the formula is there. And Kalen DeBoer needs this one badly. Badly. He's got to have a win. The problem is I don't think he's going to get it. Because the other thing that Tennessee was able to do that pushed Georgia to the brink was, play them on their home field, not on the road. You're trying to break a winning streak that is several years long, that goes all the way back to when Joe Burrow was the quarterback at LSU? Oof. Justin Herbert was still in college? Oh boy. It's been a while. You have to do more than just have the right formula for me to come on this show and say I'm taking you to pick off Georgia's longest home winning streak in the country. You have to do more than just, it could. I see it. I see how it can transpire. I am taking Georgia to win the game, and this is not going to be a good place for Kalen DeBoer to be. It's not going to be comfortable. It's not going to be very fun. Do you realize who Alabama still has to play the rest of the year? Oh, guess what? I came prepared with the Crimson Tide schedule the rest of the season. At Georgia this week. They host Vanderbilt next week. That's never gone badly before. At Missouri, who I really like. I have been down on Missouri the last couple of years. Not this season. Not this season at all. Hardy and Prabula are a dynamic tandem back there. I'm just saying, I like Missouri. Then they have to play Tennessee, who we know is a good team. At South Carolina, that's on the road. LSU, Oklahoma, and then Eastern Illinois and Auburn. On the road, by the way. So if Alabama loses this game to Georgia, which I think they will, they can't lose a game the rest of the year if they want to be an at-large playoff team. Maybe with this schedule, if it holds up when the committee is selecting teams to make the playoff, maybe they could get in at 9-3. Maybe. You want to take that chance? You want to put your fate in the hands of the committee, putting a 3-loss team into the playoff for the first time ever? I wouldn't want to do that. So you would also have the option, because there's an ACC loss to Florida State, you'd have the option, of course, of getting to the SEC championship game and winning. Well, good luck getting there. Having lost the head-to-head to Georgia and still having to play all those teams, it's a tough road ahead. 2 years without the playoff, and Kalen DeBoer might not be the head coach in Tuscaloosa anymore. So, big game for the Crimson Tide. They've got to win. There's a formula. I've seen it. But I do not trust Georgia's defense when it came down to it. Got the stop on the road against Tennessee in overtime that allowed it to be a game-winning touchdown. The last 2 games have been good. Florida State was ugly, and it's year 2. I don't trust the Alabama defense. So, give me Georgia. I'll take the Bulldogs 34-30 in Athens. Should be another fun game. Speaking of fun games, there's a different type of pressure that's going to take place in Champaign this weekend. Illinois just got their brains beat in really soundly by Indiana, 63-10. Doesn't get much worse than that in a conference game. USC comes to town absolutely on fire. I liked USC before the season. They have looked as good as I thought. Just for the sake of my Fighting Illini and their first loss having been suffered this past week. Look, they could lose this game and try and win out. That's tough when you still have Ohio State and Washington on the road on your schedule. I'll pick that game later too. I look at what happens with Illinois and say if they lose this game, it's a disappointment. It's not a fire Brett Bielema sort of disappointment, because the fact that they even have those sorts of expectations, or someone like me picked them to win 10 games before the season began, and Lincoln Riley is belly aching about the travel and the different time zones. And go talk to your president, dude. I know you're talking to the press in that particular moment, but if you don't like the travel situation, go talk to your university president. That's who's responsible for that particular situation. Just the classic, we're all trying to find the guy who did this. Yeah, that'd be your president. Who I don't think is there anymore that actually made that decision. I could have that wrong. Anyway, back to actual football here. Illinois winning out if they don't beat USC this weekend. Yeah, it's not going to happen. You won't make the Big Ten championship game. You will not be making the college football playoff. And that'd be a disappointment, but it wouldn't result in firing Brett Bielema because they're just excited to be at the table. They're just happy to be in that conversation, and that's worth something. It's not worth anything at Alabama. The standard is much higher. At Illinois, standard is not as high. So I'll take Illinois to beat USC this weekend just for the sake of the Illini needing that game, or else their season becomes an all too familiar season in which it's, well, we're playing football, that's fun, let's go watch, see what the heck happens, but yeah, we're not doing anything of major consequence. So that's what's on the line. Not for USC, but for Illinois. So I'll take Illinois to win. 27-24, slugfest in Champaign. That'll be fun. More picks. LSU over Ole Miss. It's hard. It's really hard. It's hard to make that pick. I'm going to do it. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Mazda is moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment that moved the game forward from last week is Fernando Mendoza and the Indiana offense. It wasn't one moment, it was many moments, frankly, that just put Indiana in a position to look like a bona fide college football playoff contender, not just to get there, but to be able to do something. Imagine if a top 10 team was blown out by Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon or Penn State for that matter? How would you feel? Well, that's what Indiana just did. And the Hoosiers, who I thought would lose the game, I have worn my Indiana hat diligently this week. Yeah, they moved themselves forward in a big way, not just perception-wise, but rankings-wise as well. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Check them out, Mazda, move and be moved. So many games to pick. Let's start with LSU and Ole Miss. Trinidad Chambliss is an awesome story. Most of you are probably going to watch him play football for the first time. He's a gamer. He is an awesome quarterback to watch. Came from Division II Ferris State. I remember talking about him on the show back in the spring when he transferred, and I was sitting there going, what exactly is going on here? And I talked to Stephen Willis of Locked On Ole Miss about it. He said, it's a depth piece. It's just somebody they brought in. There's no worry with Austin Simmons or anything like that. I said, okay, well, probably never going to talk about him again. And here we are. Trinidad Chambliss, topic on the show. So Chambliss has played really well. Turns out Lane Kiffin knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. Hey, Florida, pay attention to that. Yeah, Lane Kiffin, quarterbacks, good match. You're going to try and keep DJ Lagway around when you inevitably fire Billy Napier? Well, just think about that. Lane Kiffin, good with quarterback. So I'm taking LSU to win this game, and the reason is the LSU defense. I really like what the Tigers have done on that side of the ball. Every time I watch them, I feel like I've been transported back to the 2010s, the early 2010s. Remember when Alabama and LSU played that 9-6 football game? I remember watching that. That's what I feel like LSU is doing on that side of the ball. And yeah, I'm waiting for the offense to show up. No doubt about it. Garrett Nussmeier and the Tigers offensively haven't been consistently good enough. They have not been at a championship level. The defense is playing at a championship level. And frankly, with how the LSU program has been the last couple of years, I would rather be, if I were a Tigers fan, I'm not, but if I were, I'm a Seahawks fan. Go Hawks. Nice win on Thursday Night Football, of course. If I were a Tigers fan, I would rather have the offense be behind the defense right now because I trust that unit, knowing the production that they've had in recent seasons with Brian Kelly as the head coach and a veteran quarterback. I think that's a less concerning. It's a concern, but it's less concerning to need the offense to take a step forward than it is for the defense to still be a persistent issue. But it's not. This is a defensively led team. Kind of reminds me of Tennessee from last year, where I'm waiting on the offense and it shows some moments and glimpses and whatnot. But in the meantime, the defense is really good. So give me LSU over Ole Miss in a lower scoring game than you might expect when Ole Miss is involved. 23-20. I'll take the Tigers to go into Oxford and get the win. Utah needs a bounce back in a big way. So they get embarrassed last week. Now, the game was closer than the final score indicated. Utah got dropped from the top 25. Illinois is still there. Why? Brand bias. Big 10 over Big 12. No other way to see it. Because Illinois actually got beat 63-10. Utah played a competitive game for 3.5 quarters. Illinois would love to be able to say they played 3.5 quarters of competitive football last week. They didn't. They absolutely, positively did not. So Utah is in what you may have heard described before as wounded animal mode. They go on the road to West Virginia. Ask Pitt how easy it is to play at West Virginia. This is not one of my best bets, but Utah, off a game in which they were pushed around in the trenches, going against a roster in West Virginia that was pushed around by Kansas last week. One of the few best bets I actually got right. I'll try again this week. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I like Utah big over West Virginia here. Not a best bet. It's a lot of points on the road, and I have questions about Devin Dampier at quarterback, but give me the Utes 34-17. I think they knock off West Virginia and Morgantown. How about Texas A&M and Auburn? Really fascinating game here. I'm actually tempted to take Auburn. Not as a point spread underdog, as an outright upset here. I like Texas A&M. I think Colin Klein's a really good offensive coordinator. Marcel Reed is electric. Mike Elko's a good coach. It annoys a lot of people that Texas A&M is good, particularly those in Austin, Texas, in the greater Austin area. But Mike Elko succeeding at Texas A&M doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise a lot of people that have been paying attention. You think he's just going to go 8-4 every single year because that's what Texas A&M does, and that's the meme, right? Well, this is a good team. They just beat a good Notre Dame team on the road. Yep, it should have been a hold, but they were in that position, and Notre Dame shouldn't have let it get there. Texas A&M took advantage. That's what good teams do. I'm looking to see, I know that Texas A&M can be explosive in the pass game. I'm looking to see, can Marcel Reed become more consistent? Can he become a passer that gets to, he doesn't need to be a 70-75% completion percentage guy. Can he hover in the mid-60s? I think that would level up Texas A&M even more. I'll take them over Auburn. I think it's kind of close. I like the Auburn defense. I like Jackson Arnold running the ball, and I'm curious to see if he does that more in this game against Texas A&M, or if they realize, well, we got to have him back there. Can't beat him up all season like John Mateer a little bit at Oklahoma. I'll take Texas A&M. Low-scoring game here, 21-13. I think they beat the Tigers. Arizona State and TCU on Friday. I have mentioned this before. It bears repeating. Arizona State's got to win this game. TCU has to win this game. Arizona State needs it a little bit more if they have any hope of being an at-large playoff bid, but without a win over Mississippi State, and that's tough. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging is all I will throw out there. But I think Arizona State beats TCU, and there is a stat that I don't even want to put out there that concerns me with this particular pick. But Arizona State at home on a short week, look, TCU is, I think, similar to Baylor. They're a better version of it. I think Josh Hoover is a slightly better version of Sawyer Robertson. I am bullish on Josh Hoover, but I like Brian Ward, the Arizona State defensive coordinator. I like them at home to find a way to get the job done. So Arizona State in a close one, in a really fun game on Friday night. I'll have a reaction show up later on that. I'll talk more about Ohio State, Washington later because there's something else to get to there. I got this question from Philip, by the way. Notre Dame let Purdue score 30 points at home. They will not make the playoffs this year, even if USC is ranked in the top 10 by the time they play, and they beat them. The Notre Dame defense needs to be fixed. I think Marcus Freeman can get it there, though I do wonder, with the guys they lost to the NFL draft, is it just one of those kind of, soft reset years, a regression year, a fallback year? CJ Carr looks like the real deal at quarterback. But is this a hot take? No, Philip, I don't think it's a hot take at all because I said coming into the year, Notre Dame's got to win at least one of their first two games or they probably won't make the playoff. I don't even think 10-2 Notre Dame makes the playoff. So hot take? No, not at all. On Spencer's scale of agreement, I'll put that at a 9. If they beat a top 10 USC, I don't know that the Trojans will be inside the top 10. They could. I don't think they'll quite crack the top 10. Might crack top 15. But if Notre Dame beats them, I think they'll suffer from, you lost to Notre Dame who's got 2 losses. We like Notre Dame, but they got 2 losses there. So let's drop USC down to 20th or something like that. And I don't know how it will hold up over time. But yeah, Notre Dame is not a team that is playing great defensively right now. You better play defense against Arkansas. Going to throw it out there. So, no, I don't think that's a hot take at all. Notre Dame's playoff chances, really, really slim. Just like Alabama's playoff chances will be slim if, and I think when, they lose to Georgia on Saturday. All right, it's time for a rebound. And that's my 3rd week in a row saying this. I'm 4 games under 500. We're going to figure it out. I like my best bets this week more than I have any week of the season. First, this episode brought to you by DoorDash. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down and start with John Mateer. Auburn goes down the field, and frankly, Jackson Arnold delivered a heck of a drive for the Auburn Tigers with some big conversions and key moments, and they have the lead on the road, need the defense to make a stop, couldn't do it. and John Mateer marched him down the field. He delivered for Oklahoma, and I hope he's going to be able to do that again. We have to wait and see what happens with his injury, though. That is a serious problem for Oklahoma. He can't deliver when he's injured, but DoorDash can always deliver your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Check out DoorDash today. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. Caffeine just got a flavor upgrade, folks. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee plus B vitamins and nutrients with 0 sugar and 0 crashes. What you'll love most about them is how portable they are. You can fit them in your pocket. You can fit them literally anywhere. They're so easy to take onto the golf course, to a workout, or just around the house. They're easy to have anywhere that you need energy. Maybe the golf course, you feel like, I need a little pick-me-up. I'm more suited for 9 holes, but I need to play 18. Or I'm more suited for 18 holes, I need to play 36. That's what I'm talking about right there. Use 5 Hour Energy to fuel you to play an extra 18 holes. I support that message. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. Time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5 Hour Energy shots. Get the favorites you love, or be bold and try something new in-store and online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon today. Check them out at 5hourenergy.com. These odds, of course, provided by our friends at FanDuel. Let's dive into what went wrong last week. The only things that went right: Kansas minus 12.5 and Arizona State plus 2.5 on the road. I will not be doubling down on Arizona State because that is a coin flip sort of game. I mean, Baylor was, but felt better about them in that spot than I do against TCU because I like TCU more than Baylor, but Arizona State at home. North Carolina was blown out by Central Florida. Illinois was blown out by Indiana. Oregon didn't quite cover 35.5 against Oregon State, and Nebraska lost outright by more than 2.5 points to Michigan. So that was a 2-4 week. I am 15-19 on the year. It's not unsalvageable. I am slowly but surely running out of weeks here to get well into the positive and be around that 54% number. I think is kind of where I'd like to be. So let's get to my best bets this week and start with the Florida State and Virginia game. I am picking this game on principle of Virginia plus 6.5. There is serious upset potential here. I look at this matchup and say, wait a minute. Florida State is ranked inside the top 10. Who in the world is Virginia to be under a touchdown dog, even though they are at home? Who is Virginia how is Virginia? That makes me think Vegas knows something here. They might. Chandler Morris playing good football. That, by the way, yes, that Chandler Morris is still around. He's Virginia's quarterback. Doing some nice stuff. Over 70% completion, only 1 interception so far this year. Virginia's 3-1. They haven't beaten anybody. They're a little bit of a fraudulent 3-1, which makes me all the more curious. Why in the world, FanDuel, odds makers, whoever you are, or whatever entity you are out there, could be a computer, I don't know, probably is. Why is it only 6.5? Why is this? Utah is going to West Virginia as a minus 12.5 point favorite. Why is that not bigger? So that's why I take Virginia plus 6.5. I'm not taking the outright upset there. That'd be quite the stunner, but just keep an eye on that one. BYU, I mentioned this earlier in the week. This is one of my favorite bets of the week. This is probably my favorite of all the bets. I think BYU rolls Colorado. Minus 6.5, swallow it. On the road, I'm okay with it. I'm good. Swallow the points. Take them. Colorado still cannot stop the run. BYU's defensive metrics are very good for a Colorado offense that has been inconsistent at best, explosive at times, but they have not linked their passing game with any semblance of what they had last year with Shedeur and those wideouts. They have talented receivers. They've got dudes on the perimeter. Who's been throwing them the ball? Well, it was Caden Salter, and then it was Caden Salter, Ryan Staub, and Juju Lewis, and then it was Ryan Staub, and now it's back to Caden Salter. This game is in Boulder. It is a late kickoff on Saturday night. So the environment is going to be absolutely hopping, but you don't have an elevation advantage like you do against other teams playing in Boulder because you're going up against BYU. They're accustomed to playing night games as well in Provo, which is also a great environment. I think BYU on the road wins, covers the 6.5 points. I don't have any qualms about that. I think BYU wins this game by double digits. Here's another one. Another one of the same number, by the way. This is apparently just my favorite number of the week. Another one that I look at and go, wait a minute, something's wrong. Something is not right with this particular number, and it's Boston College minus 6.5 against Cal. Cal last week got embarrassed 34-0 on the road against San Diego State. And the Justin Wilcox era did the most Justin Wilcox era thing imaginable last week. You've got this superstar true freshman quarterback who everyone is correctly already talking about as needing a big NIL deal to stay in Berkeley next year. You beat a Big Ten team in Minnesota who's a respectable team. They're nothing special, but they're respectable. Yeah, they were a little dinged up, but still, good solid win against a good solid team. Then you go play a rebuilding group of 5 school, and you don't just lose, you lose 34-0. Now, this may make you think this is a classic bounce back spot. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But you know what? This is another one of those Vegas knows something I don't. And Bill O'Brien and Boston College, not overly impressive this year. They almost won a double or triple overtime thriller against Michigan State. They didn't. They have not been very good this year. Cal's got a higher ceiling from what they've put on the field this year. Boston College is the 6.5 point favorite. I guess they're beating Cal 27-20. 27-20. I guess Boston College is winning this game. Cross-country trips, really difficult. I will put Cal in my best bets later this year when they play teams like Duke and North Carolina, depending on what the line might be, because those cross-country trips where you're literally going from coast to coast, it doesn't make any sense. It is confusing, but it's the world that we've got. It's like the line from Top Gun Maverick. I don't like that look, Mav. Only one I got. Well, I don't like this conference, Jim Phillips. Only one I got. That's what they're dealing with here. So Boston College minus 6.5 against Cal. They win 27-20. Mississippi State, talked about this earlier in the week. Serious upset potential here. Mississippi State plus 7.5 against Tennessee. This is last year's Arkansas game for Tennessee. The Razorbacks weren't particularly good, but they were good enough, and they were really good on offense. And they went on the road as a 2-touchdown favorite, and they lost the game outright. Now, I've been really impressed with Joey Aguilar, and he is the reason that I am backing off of my preseason prediction that this would be an outright upset. I wanted to, but I've been too impressed with what he's seen so far. I don't know if Mississippi State's all the way there defensively. The offense has obviously made a bunch of progress. But remember, if you think I'm crazy for picking this matchup because, well, Tennessee's ranked and they're 7.5 point favorite, this should be a ranked matchup. Mississippi State should be ranked. They beat the preseason number 12 team in the country in Arizona State, and it was a thriller, but you get credit for winning. Mississippi State's got a good offense. I think they'll be able to throw it on this Tennessee secondary that is not that different, really, based on my conversation with Eric Kane of Locked On Vols, than what they were against Georgia. I think Gunnar Stockton's good. I think he's better than Blake Shapen. I don't think Blake Shapen's bad. With Jeff Leppy, I've done way too much podcasting this week. Probably need a break. Jeff Lebby, he's been good. Last year, before he got hurt, this year, now that he's healthy, he's been good. I will take Tennessee to win the game, but Mississippi State covers 7.5 at home. The Cowbells will be rocking. And finally, one of the games of the week. I've got a weird score out there that probably hasn't shown up before. I don't know the name of the guru or whatever with scores and whatnot. Penn State's beating Oregon 34-29. Do I want that to happen? Well, personally, no. No, I don't. Is it what I think will happen? It is. Penn State has had an extra week to prepare for this game. Jim Knowles put the Oregon offense with a more experienced quarterback in Dylan Gabriel in a blender on January 1st, and Jim Knowles is now the Penn State defensive coordinator. So I think Jim Knowles is the difference here, 34-29. I'll take Penn State's offense to get right. They have not been very good so far this year. They have to get themselves right. I think they can do that in this spot at home off a bye against Oregon. So, best bets of the week. BYU minus 6.5, Virginia plus 6.5, Boston College minus 6.5, Mississippi State plus 7.5, Penn State minus 3.5. Odds provided by our friends at FanDuel. Enjoy the football, everybody. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.